morning.
Good morning. Welcome. Hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving week. I guess it's here. It'll be here before you know it tomorrow, huh? So, with that, you were sent a consent agenda via email. Hopefully everyone received it. Any questions, concerns, issues that need to be brought up, changes that need to be made or anything? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Ron.
Second.
We have a second. Stuart? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We're on to public comment. Was there anybody out there that'd like to make a public comment? Happy Thanksgiving. Same to you.
I
So,
did receive a public comment
Okay.
from Lance Rupp. He's at home ill.
okay,
But he did want me to invite you all to attend the next Builders Association luncheon,
okay,
which will be Thursday, December 8th. It's at Southwind. And actually at 11, we have a budget, let's see.
He's the
What's his
lobbyist.
title?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's the
a
vice
national
president of
lobbyist.
government affairs
Yeah.
and the chief lobbyist for the National Association of Home Builders.
okay.
Yes, and it's a pretty significant that he's coming here.
Okay,
So, yeah, it should be interesting. So at 11:30, he's gonna have a little meet and greet out at Southwind, followed by the luncheon at noon. So, and you are all invited.
do we need to let them know if we're going to attend or anything, or is that?
If you just let me know, I'll pass it along.
All right, thank you. You said December the 8th. Okay, I'll let you know. Thank you, Vicki. Thank you, Mr. Rupp.
He's probably watching.
Yeah, righty.
Making sure you did it.
Yes.
Right.
So with that said, we will move on to the update from Miss Lana.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, Prospect 622, those site consultants had come back in July, if you remember, and looked at a couple of sites and met with a couple of landowners while they were here. They came back November 8th and did some recon, if you will, looked around a little bit more. So we spent a pretty good portion of the day with them and feel comfortable that we'll be getting projects out of them.
All right, good.
Yeah. Prospect 222, Prospect Niagara. We do meet weekly with this prospect now, and things are moving forward. They've got some rail engineers working on drawings for the site that they're leaning towards, and working on some permitting questions as well. Good morning, Sam.
Morning, Sam.
Morning, Sam. Morning.
Housing Project 922. This is a housing development that had started a few years ago and then hit some hiccups and didn't go forward. And we're working with the developer who's stepping in and looking to take that project over. I talk to them pretty regularly, share information with them, and this week shared some state of Kansas housing tools with them, walking them through their pro formas and how those incentive tools from the state of Kansas may be able to help them.
We not named that project yet, Mr. Cottrell?
Yeah, can you believe it?
Okay.
I must not have been there.
All right.
All right, housing project 722 Prospect Reno, and this is an area that we're working with. It's a larger piece of ground, but we've sectioned off the first 21 acres and have that under contract with a large apartment complex, and we're working with them on rezoning and master planning of the adjacent commercial space as well as the additional residential area behind that. Randall Estates, the Monday morning at County Commission, we did, we did get their development agreement approved and their RHID, which sets the clock now for 30 days to allow any of the other taxing entities who want to say no.
Intervene.
They don't have to say yes, the But so as long as they don't say no, that the project will move forward. We don't have any reason to believe that there'll be any problems with it. Country Acres still waiting on some additional information on the contractors and pricing for that one. 521, there's no update. This is the one on the west side between Garden City and Holcomb, and we haven't made any progress on the wastewater solution over there. County Commission has been discussing it off and on at county commission meetings, so we'll see what they come up with there. Hunter's Glen, if you haven't been out there, you need to take a drive by. I thought that is moving quickly. Second stories are going up and it's looking really good. 820, no update on that one. Project Daytona, this is the mixed-use development that we've been working on. We've had an architectural firm working on it for, probably about 6 weeks now, maybe a little bit longer than that, and went through the original presentation of the first draft of renderings, gave them some ideas to go back and work on, and should have final renderings within the next 10 days, 2 weeks. Western Kansas Corridor, there's been some delays. Again, we're working right now to get the second phase underway, and have had some challenges getting comments back and working through the process. If you watched the county commission meeting, you saw that Dr. Hannigan went and addressed the commissioners again, asking for their assistance to move things along and help get that project underway. So, but good progress on phase 1. If you haven't been by there, you need to go take a look. There's some streets and everything. It's pretty exciting. So hopefully we'll keep things on track and get that project through. Lots of meetings. November's been busy, and December actually looks to be pretty busy the first couple weeks before everybody dives into Christmas vacation. So a little bit of travel, not terrible. Starting in January, you'll see us with quite a bit more travel going on. Childcare update, I'll just let you know that we do have the licensing underway on the 3rd Street facility. Excuse me. And continue to work with community daycare to work through the challenges that they've had with staffing. So we'll keep plugging along. Other things on workforce, I would like to tell you that we do have the freshman career fair at Garden City High School the morning of December 8th. And then that afternoon, I'll be at Holcomb High School. They're doing a career exploration that afternoon out there. So December 8th will be pretty full, starting at Garden City High School, running out to Southwind for builders, and then running out to Holcomb for career exploration. So certainly let us know if you'd like to be involved in any of those projects. It's always a lot of fun to see the high school students and see their reactions to the different opportunities that are available to them. And if you haven't noticed, if you're not on social media, you maybe haven't seen, but Empirical's training program, they're doing a really nice job of keeping the stories out there and talking through that. So I will also tell you, Bob Kreitzer and I, working on workforce stuff, had gone to meet with Holcomb High School, and they shared a story with us of a student that had dropped out of high school and then heard about the Empirical opportunity where they would pay for him to get his training, and so he re-enrolled in high school to be able to take part in that. So those are the stories that matter, when we're changing a life like that. So very exciting. Yeah, back in school, we'll end up getting his high school diploma and his certificate for industrial maintenance at the same time. So very exciting. And other than that, I hope you like that. January blank. It is January 26th, the annual meeting at the Garden City Community College in the endowment room. So it's on a Thursday this time. Happy to answer any other questions you guys might have.
The interest in the kids at the, for the Empirical project, are they a lot of local kids that are expressing interest, or we?
Yeah, so they've been in the high schools, Holcomb and Garden
Right.
City High School.
Mhm.
They're looking to expand that out to some of
Okay.
the other area high schools as well.
Okay.
But yeah, largely it's been the local high school students that are taking part in that. But they've also got some returning learners some folks who were, you know, already out of high school and in the workforce and other positions that are looking for them too. So it's a very cool program, very cool.
Any update on the sport world? Yeah, yeah.
Things are still underway. Construction's
Things-
underway.
Things are really moving.
At the city commission meeting, 3 meetings ago, I think it was, developer came and gave just a brief update and said they'd be releasing some additional drawings and such of what folks can expect to see there. They've recalibrated a little bit from what it was originally going to be. So, yeah, I think the public will be excited to see what's happening with that project.
Good.
I'd like to make a comment on that. If anybody's interested, we could set up a meeting to have the architectural firm go through that with you, make a presentation to you, if you're interested.
Yeah. I think that would be a great idea.
Absolutely.
All right, I will get with their schedule and set something up with Lana.
So what kind of presentation are we talking? Are we talking pretty extensive, or is it something that we would want to share at our 5th monthly meeting? Is that
Well,
something?
it's, I mean, a lot of it would be on the computer, so
Oh, okay.
it'd probably be easier
Probably.
to go to their office to,
Okay,
Yeah,
To,
just for the board.
yeah,
Mhm,
okay.
yeah.
All righty.
Yeah, because we won't have a 5th week until
Quite a while,
we have annual meeting in
January.
Mhm.
But there's a 5th week.
Yeah, but I don't think we'll actually have it since we'll.
Because we're meeting with the folks anyway on
Yeah.
Jan.
That's what I know, but
So then I don't think it's in March or something?
I think so.
And
Yeah.
May might be the next
Okay.
one. We don't know.
Are early meetings best for you guys? or-
Works for me.
Okay,
Yeah. Thank
okay,
you.
we'll coordinate.
That'll be perfect. Thank you, Stuart. And that's all I have, unless you guys have additional questions.
Any other questions for Lana? Thank you for the report, Lana. Appreciate it. Next, we have Mr. Cottrell.
Morning.
Good morning. You sound pretty excited.
It's much better seeing
Sunshine?
light sky than dark.
Yeah,
So
have to agree on that.
I feel like we're here in the middle of
I'm
the night.
better. On the industrial side, KDOC was quiet this month and didn't send us anything to reject. That was good. Project Niagara, I've been looking at some other sites just as backup, just in case, you never know. And then we had a small distribution center contractor get in touch with us looking for a couple acres to build a small building for something. Up on the corridor, as Lana said, things are moving. Road base is pretty much done, and we've got some bits and pieces of asphalt, 300 or 400 feet over here and some here, and
Checkerboard.
some around the bend. But the plant is shut down for the winter now, so won't be any more paving going on until March-ish. Drainage work is almost finished. Water and sewer are underway. They actually had to repair a water line that they cut through putting in the sewer line. Fortunately, there was no water in the water main, so it was an easy fix. But it's one of those head scratchers. But two different crews, one didn't know, left hand and right hand don't talk, whatever. As Lana said, Dr. Hannigan was at the county commission meeting Monday, asking for some assistance to move phase 2 along. There was some issues with county staff related to the two connecting street at 8th Street, and that's just taken,
Up for further discussion.
well, they thought so.
Okay.
We'll have to see what becomes that.
Okay.
Anyway, so that was kind of impacting the schedule on finishing the engineering plans for the balance of the project and sitting on the developer's agreement, so it was just pretty much dead stop, sort of. And we're still working on getting an easement for the sewer line. I think we've got it resolved. Just a matter of time here. I finished the color site plan for the Legacy Crossing development. Infrastructure is still underway. Next week, I think, is when contractor will construct the storm sewer crossing Campus Drive. So don't go down Campus Drive because you'll have to detour. And they've also, I think, started site work on the restaurant pad as well. On the residential side, as Lana said, the city annexed 120 acres on Jenny Barker for Project Reno. Probably all going to be multifamily with some commercial along the highway. And we're working with the property owner on a very small multifamily development on Spruce, just east of the bypass. There's a couple acres on the south side of Spruce that had been owned by a church, and apparently their plans had changed, so that property was sold. We've got a couple that want to do their first development, so trying to shepherd them through the RHID process, but looking at maybe half a dozen duplexes that would be owner occupied, so zero lot line type development, but just having some initial discussions with them on that. As Lana said, Randall Estates was approved, the RHID was approved by the county, so the veto period is underway, and we got the developer's agreement for that. Country Acres, which is the Spikes development on Marion farmland, is on hold. There were some issues on road design that they're doing some additional engineering work on that part. And the city is working on a developer's agreement with the owners for extension of water and a pre-annexation agreement, because that development will have city water and septic tank. Ponderosa addition in Southwind is slightly on hold. The developer was thinking about doing it in 2 phases, and I guess the interest in those lots was quite substantial, so they're thinking maybe they'll do it in 1 phase, but just haven't made that decision yet. And working with a property owner on a site out in the county for possible RHID, but there's some utility issues out there that have to decide whether it's going to stay a farm or irrigated farmland or slowly phase in some residential.
How many acres on that?
It's a small circle.
Okay.
So it's got the water user's ditch cuts through from 3rd Street down into the center, and then it turns north, so lots of
Angles.
angles and issues with how do you phase it, where's access come from, because it doesn't touch 3rd Street all through the property, so taking time. And up on Hunter's Glen, 2 of the 4plexes not only have second stories, but they also have roofs now. So they'll be able to work through the winter on the inside of at least 2 4plexes. But it is moving quite well. That's it.
And I'm sorry, I probably should have asked this. The plywood that's on the side of Empirical, is that going to be Is that extended out, like later?
Temporary.
Yeah, is that temporary, the plywood side that's there, and that's to keep heat?
Will actually be made of plywood.
No. I'm assuming that, but I'm thinking they probably enclosed it for the winter and to allow the heat and to cure
To
concrete and,
warmth and stuff,
right, yeah. So, okay. They had a ton of plywood. Well, no. I didn't think that, but I was wondering if they were building the building on out further. Is that the side of the
Well,
building?
the building is designed to allow for expansion
Expansion.
in two directions.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so, and, you know, if you listened, there was not too long ago, and Jay did an interview on Facebook.
Okay, no, I
And talked
missed
about
it.
the fact that it could even be that just as they finish the first part of the building.
Right.
And get their
They need
original
the second.
production up, they may just continue with construction and start those
Second.
additions right away. So, yeah, but it is designed specifically to allow it to expand two directions.
And they have torn out the curve on the original rail siding now. So,
Seriously?
yeah,
Oh, wow.
because there's two rail
rails.
lines that go into, that'll be in the building below the
Product.
tower cars.
Mhm.
And then I think 3 or 4 outside for stacking.
Interesting. Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. No other questions for Steve? Before he sits down? Oh, he's already sat down. All righty, I guess we have a social media report. Mr. Scott Ost.
All right. The website had 5,103 visitors last month. The most, that was up about 1,300 visits. The most viewed posts were about a Musgrove Insurance new agent, high school student scholarship winner. Tetra had an entrepreneur showcase November 10th and 11th. They had 200, roughly 200 area high school students come in and do things in their new headquarters
Yeah.
on Thursday. And then it was Garden City High School's turn to have another couple hundred Garden City High School students on the Friday. We'll do the same thing, looking around at how Tetra does business, talk about those kind of career things.
A lot of kids express interest.
It
was
was very well
tremendous.
received.
Good,
Yeah.
good deal.
Facebook pages, Greater Garden City's Facebook page had posts that reached 1,541, which is the number of people who saw any post. 1,149 people either clicked, commented, shared, whatever. The Garden City Journal Facebook page had a 2765 post reach, only 343 engagements last month. Top posts for all of them were Community College Fitness Course opening, the Mayor's American Education Week proclamation photo, and a photo of the Heroes Breakfast at Jenny Barker. Twitter had 1,321 tweets viewed by other people. 166 people visit our profile. Twitter might be going away, I'm not sure. You might have seen that Elon Musk bought it, and apparently there's a lot of drama going on with Twitter.
Extreme amount of drama.
So, who knows? I don't know if Twitter's going to be.
I think every day, everybody wonders if there's
Yeah.
gonna be a Twitter
This is gonna be a
today.
day where it's
Yeah.
turned off, yeah, so.
So see, it's not so silly that I used to giggle every time you said tweet.
Okay. And that's it.
All right, any questions for Scott?
Yes, I have a question. So, Scott, can you just like briefly explain to me the difference? Because I see on Greater Garden City, we have a post reach of 1541 and an engagement, pretty significant engagement.
You don't have to engage with the post to see it.
Right, but then on the Garden City Journal, why do we have so much broader of a reach but a lot less engagement?
I don't know, Shannon, do you know?
I think there's a couple of reasons for that. The
Really
journal,
haven't been posted as much. much.
Yeah, as far as the engagements to the
Share.
number of reach, that hasn't been posting its own original content as much on the journal side. But it's in a lot of feeds because it's developed a big following. If you remember, Journal is the one that Shannon has used to kind of measure trade area and do some of those things. So it's got a lot of followers that.
I wondered about that because it's been out there longer and.
Right, it has a lot of
had-
followers that Greater Garden City doesn't have, so,
Okay.
yeah, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Uh-huh.
Anything else for Scott?
Who were invited to the Heroes Breakfast?
That was the
Sheriff's office?
sheriffs and police,
Okay.
yeah. And our very own Steve Martinez made the photo, so of course we had to share.
Doesn't he always?
He doesn't miss a breakfast that somebody else is paying
No.
for, right?
No.
A breakfast or a McRib.
He's good like that, isn't he?
Or camera.
All right, Mr. Shannon Dick, you're up.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
We're in between kind of two larger data events, which is State of the City kind of, and then the annual report. So as we were talking about what to present here, because there's not too many new documents being made, well, they're being made, not being produced. And Lana had a good point about talking about kind of a strategy, because a lot of times we talk about just like, we're doing this, and here's a new little tool we have, and here's a tool we have. What does it look like when we have all these pieces of tools, and what are we developing and things like that? So I'm going to talk a little bit, just try to go kind of briefly over kind of an overall strategy for retail and restaurants, and just to go through the tools that we have and where we're going with it and how it's been used in the past. So the first thing, and none of this stuff is new. This is the stuff that we've been working on, and I'll talk about what the next step is, but kind of how all these things work together. The first document that's fairly significant, that this is actually originally from 2017. It's been updated a couple times. And this is the estimated restaurant and retail demand for Garden City. And this was our original attempt at putting together a document that people could come in and say, hey, what's going on in the community? And then we have a whole list of all these things. And it included things like the size of the concept and the fit. And we broke down the area, Garden City area, and Holcomb into corridors, and said, would these concepts fit in different corridors? And so this document really still is relevant because, I mean, for the most part, the sizes of these concepts are the same 3 or 5 years later. The corridor fit still is basically the same. So there's a lot of good information that we still use out of this document. But it's a good one when we have a concept that contacts us and says, hey, where are some places that we could go? We can pull this out and have a good set of locations. At the same time, if we have a developer that's saying, hey, I'm going to be building a commercial strip or looking at a commercial in this part of the area of Garden City, what are some places that I could expect to try to reach out to and get? We have that there. One of the weaknesses that we had out of this, though, is we have some demand and fits and numbers here. That was from some research. I would say from some surveys that were about 100 people, 150 people, and it was from about 5 years ago. So the next thing that we did, or next big thing that we did, was that retail and restaurant survey that we did at the beginning of the year. And so this is the one that was taken by about 1,000 people, more than 1,000, I think it was 1,200, did at least some of this survey, more than 1,000 complete surveys. And this really dove into a vast, I mean, if you remember taking this is a very long survey and talked about this, talked about a vast amount of brands, but then also did some demographic information so that we can turn this into a more comprehensive document here, where we're talking about breaking down by concept fit for the community on ethnicity and age and gender and location, and if they're how often do they come into town. So on this one, we have 3 numbers, for that estimated fit. Each one of these three numbers now is broken into almost, we have 15, no more than that, almost 20 numbers now. So, and this was useful. We had some concepts that came in that said, we're really looking for a location that's in this geographic part area, but also has this it was a weird mixed demographics, and said, where do we have this demographic and this demographic in this type of area? What's a good fit for that? And we can go through and say, hey, here's some good options for that. I guess this is why I like having things on PowerPoint instead of paper. Just everything's just flying all over the place. So this is really good. Another time this has come in handy just recently, well, no, 2 times. One time a retail recruiter said, hey, we're going to work on a method to kind of focus on a couple of brands going into the end of the year. What are your top 5 brands that we need to be targeting from your community? And we had that. We knew what would be those brands. Similarly, when we're talking about some of the stuff in January that's coming up and setting up some meetings with these guys, we can get a list of potential meetings at conventions and things like that, and say, well, we only have so much time during the day. I mean, this is literally a 12-hour day meeting thing, and there's more possible people to meet with or groups to meet with than what we can physically meet. So who do we prioritize? Who are we confident that are going to be happy with our market, but also we know the community is what they're looking for. So it allows us to prioritize our time when we're doing those kind of targeted events to make sure that we focus on community, the concepts that the community truly does like. And so that's good to have. The next thing that we have to go along with those kind of events where we're meeting with different community or concepts that might not know our community is we have this white paper, and this is something that we've done before. I'm working on updating it. This is actually the reason why I was going through the overall state data where we look like we're projected to get $1 billion worth of retail sales, because I was updating the part where we have our similar communities. So like Hutchinson's at 888 million, and Riley County is 800 million. That's where I was, so I could update this. But this is a one-page thing that just says, here's what our community is doing in a document form compared to some of our comparable communities along Manhattan. And so this will be good on those cases where we're sending these out in an email or in person to getting the people those really quick hits about our area. And then the last thing that I'm working on is also a one-page thing that has the map of our trade area, that has some of the graphs about our recent growth and things like that, that we can also have along with that. So we have these quick one-page, really what you need to know about Garden City, and that way it covers those kinds of situations where we need to just give somebody a really quick, they're looking at 20, 30, 40 communities at once. For example, there's a concept. So usually, when a concept gets to about 900, 1,000 units in there's about 900,000 in America. That's usually when they start to look at communities like ours and come in. So recently we had a concept that's announced that they're going to go from about 650 concepts in the nation to about 1,100 concepts in the nation. That's when we take this thing and we say, hey, we just heard that you're announcing. Usually we're kind of a community that's there. Here's some just quick, brief stuff about Garden City and Finney County. It's in a way that they can read it and understand it quick enough where we can maybe get on the top of that list. When we're talking about them expanding 300, 400 units, we'd like to be the first 50 instead of the last 50 that get built. So having those documents that we can send off to people in those groups has made a difference. So that's kind of a whole, you've seen, I think all of these pieces you've seen over the last 5 years, but that kind of encompasses the strategy, because there isn't just one strategy. When you're talking about retail, like getting retail and restaurants, it's not just going to trade shows, it's not just being in contact with a retail recruiter, it's not just knowing your community, it's all of these things all together at once, and then having all the different pieces. So when somebody says, hey, we have a new strip coming in, or we're working on a new power center, who do we need to target? We can go without having to say, okay, well, let's go survey people, or let's go, I think it's gonna be this. I mean, if we have it right now, we can give them right away. And that turnover means that we keep those people on those projects. So, anything else I missed? I know we were talking about this long, but,
No, I think that's very good.
okay. Any questions or anything? It's kind of just a high-level thing, not as,
That's great. I look forward to seeing those updates. It'll be interesting to see that.
yeah, it looks like we're coming out pretty good with our growth compared to other growth. I mean, across Kansas, we've had some pretty good growth in a lot of these things. Some communities are doing pretty well, but even given that, we're growing even faster than a lot of those communities. So it still continues to make us look pretty good when we do those comparisons.
Good. Shannon, thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
all the good information. That's,
I'd like to say something on that hand. Day before yesterday, I went over, I was trying to get a builder lined up for us. And anyway, the owner of this property, and it's on West Mary, this house that's going in, it's a 5,000 square foot house. It's a huge house. But anyway, the owner was there, and I talked to him for a good hour and a half, and he's a trucker. And he says he came from Mexico at age 12, and he's now 30-some years old, and he says, this community is growing so good. He says, it's unbelievable. He says, we can get work, we can do work. He says, if you want to work, you got a job in this town. And I was so impressed, and he spoke so good at English. I even complimented him when he's English. And he says, how is this happening? And I says, well, we got a good economic people working for us. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
well, it's always good information, so thanks for the comment. That's very, very good. I know we got a fantastic staff, and things are going well, so. Any other questions for Shannon?
I already sat down as well.
You can always stand back up.
Yeah, he's not as user-friendly.
Shannon, do you plan to share any of that information at our annual meeting that you, when,
Yes.
from that report?
So that update that I'm talking about, one-page thing,
Yeah.
that's a lot of the things that I'll be talking about. It's taking the big presentations
Okay.
and putting it into a one-page kind of thing where people don't have to know all the background. We give them a little bit of the background. We give them the big hits about our trade area, our numbers like that.
Okay.
So yeah, all that stuff will be my stuff that I'm going to be covering in the annual meeting.
Okay, good, good deal. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. No other questions, new business? I got a subject I'd like to bring up is with you all, is there anything you'd like to see different in our agendas that might come up that we haven't brought up in the past that we should bring up for the future next year in the course of our agendas or that kind of stuff? I know we don't often talk about what the future holds and what comes up, but I know that staff does a fantastic job at putting reports together and stuff. Is there anything else that you'd like to see for in the future meetings or on the agenda? And if you'd like some time to think about it, I just thought that would be something that we ought to think about and see if there's something else that would be of interest to you. So, anything? Okay, good.
I mean, we've been very fortunate. People do a lot of good work, and there's a good report here that Ron had, but still, you've got your base resources.
Yes.
What all can our base resources serve?
Okay.
I don't know if I understand the question.
What's your limitation to your base resources?
For what the staff can do?
No. For our territory, what's our limitations?
So with our economy and the industrial, that kind of stuff, what what are our limitations as far as
Well, we
what we
could-
can bring to the community? Is that what you're,
What I'm looking at is your base resources. And I'm thinking, first of all, water.
okay, okay,
Water. This whole part of the country, without water, we're nothing.
that's correct, yeah.
And so what's our limitations on the resources?
Yeah, well, interestingly, we just had a meeting yesterday with Sunflower Electric and their business development side, and talked about a lot of those same issues. You know, how do we create sustainability across the entire western half of the state? I think you'll be pleased with some of the concepts that came out of that discussion. But certainly water was the primary topic of conversation. You know, we're in a good position in Finney County. We actually have an opportunity to save our aquifer, but not every county around us is that fortunate, and many of them, the resources are already depleted. So we have to find ways to keep those communities viable that, quite frankly, don't rely on significant irrigation. So we're always mindful of that. I just sat on a Carl panel, Kansas Agricultural Rural Leadership Group, spent an hour and a half talking about water and how we address water. So yeah, it's always top of mind for us. As you know, Shannon's done several contract jobs on water studies, and you know, we know there's two sides of that. There's quantity and there's quality concerns that we have to pay attention to. But certainly, I would tell you, your economic development office has a much better understanding of the water situation than probably any other.
And that's just some report I just listened to or heard here recently, but it really pointed to the western part of the state as economic benefit. But still, what's the base of that economic benefit? And it really stems, to me, it stems from the aggressive, effective production they've had in particularly ag, whether it be the farming, the livestock industry, or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's still like we've seen big growth in the dairies, but what's beef still here and so forth, but what's our limitations?
Yeah.
You know, we
No,
talk
we-
about the people issue and so forth, but in all these small communities, I keep talking about are extremely vital to this whole process.
We agree 100%, yeah, and, you know, we've said over and over and over again, it's just as important for us to keep those small communities viable and keep folks living in those communities. That just takes pressure off of Finney County and Garden City when we can keep folks in their own communities. And especially, you know, as we recruit new folks to the area, a lot of people really want that smaller rural community life, and we need to make sure that that's protected and available for future workforce. So no, we certainly can't disagree with any of those comments. And I would say, you know, when we get asked what holds you back or what keeps you up at night, we would say it's water, land availability. We certainly don't want to be encroaching on ag land any more than we have to, and people.
Workforce
So
limitations.
We have to
Yeah.
have additional housing. We have to have more people in the workforce. But you know, those are things that you can sit back and, you know, and a lot of people do and say, well, that we're done growing until we can figure this out. We've not taken that approach. We've chosen to continue growing and assume that housing would catch up and that childcare would catch up. And so far, we've been right. You know, with our growth, we've been able to support it. So we'll continue down that path. But everything we can do to help the other communities around us to get some additional housing built and get childcare built into their communities, every time we do that, we're improving the opportunities for our employers in Finney County to find the right folks.
I guess I'm not real sure about what the concern is, because I know that, you know, the things that we have identified, and I feel like we are making huge strides in those things: housing, childcare, you know, resources. Is there something specifically that you feel like we're lacking, or we need to work, you know, on another angle, or?
Me? Are you
Sam.
asking me or Sam?
Sam.
You're asking Sam that? Yeah. If there's something else you think we should be working on? Is there something we're not addressing that you feel like we should be?
Well, it's just, another thing that came to mind is You know, but Shannon's had a lot of good reports. A lot of it's based of retail sales and taxes and that. But what's the real drawing card for people to come to Garden City? Did they come just to shop? Or was there some other deal? Was it to go to the airport? Was it some other service? What's the drawing cards to this town?
Yeah, well, certainly the retail, but we also know that we do draw for healthcare, we draw for education.
That's an area we got a lot of room for improvement, like we talked
The
about.
healthcare?
Absolutely.
Yes, most definitely.
That
You got
needs-
Fry's over here that's bringing them in from everywhere.
Yeah,
The hospitals run the way.
absolutely.
So I read an article the other day about, because of the high cost of farming, you know, with fertilizer and water and irrigation, that a lot of these small farms can't afford to keep up with, you know, the expenses related to it. And some of these small farms are getting gobbled up by the commercial farms. But at the same time, they said that at some point in time, the United States is going to be importing food. And it just blows my mind.
Because we don't have enough.
I don't.
That's crazy. Doesn't seem right. But
No.
You could, our population may be growing to the fact that we can't keep up with that, so
Especially we're already importing food.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, but you don't think of it like that. I mean,
You know, I was thinking about that as I drove by. I went through Dodge City, and you drive through Cargill, and you see all of those trucks that are transporting the beef out of the. Gosh, there had to be 1,000 trucks at Cargill and National Beef as you go over that loop there on the east end of Dodge, and how those trucks are hauling that stuff somewhere. You know, I think that we produce that much beef that it's going somewhere, and hopefully it's supplying our needs in the United States and not elsewhere. But it's hard to believe you say that, you know, we'll be importing
Well, we've had
Food
that
for-
conversation a lot. You know, we grow a lot of commodities.
yes.
So those don't get counted as food, although they become food. They're commodities when they leave the US. So it may appear that there's a little bit of a deficit between, you know, we're having to bring in certain foods, but you know, again, we've done a lot of work on commodity growing and what is the value of commodity growing if we're not putting it into a finished product in the US. So, yeah, don't.
well, and these supply chain issues, I mean, we keep hearing more and more about different things that, and this railway strike that's,
Oh, about to take place,
Yeah,
yes.
keep your fingers crossed.
Yes,
for
that does not,
that'll be devastating.
very devastating. Very devastating. You see all of those train cars with all those cargo units on them and that kind of stuff. That would definitely put a hamper on things. The workforce limitations, I think, is something that we're probably going to experience if we're there, but not as bad as some other areas. And I was watching a news thing on Sunday, and they talked about the homeless population in California and how they had 20,000 people, I believe is what it was, homeless people in California, where they living out on the streets and their families. And I was amazed at the number of, and how the, I think, newly elected mayor, I believe it was making a comment on, she was going to try to address that somehow, some way. And I was trying to put things in perspective of how could we recruit some of those people to go to work in our areas, if, you know, but she had talked about how they cannot afford to live in California, and so they're living on the streets, and they have jobs, they're working, but still living on the street. And I was at awe by, you think of homeless people as people that don't have jobs, they don't have anything and can't afford to do anything else, but she talked about how these folks had full-time jobs, 2 and 3 jobs, and still living on the street. And it has to do something with the price of living and the cost of living in the California area, and how they, yes.
Just to address a little bit of, talking about strategy.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking about retail and recruit, and this is kind of an industrial and citywide strategy. And you've heard this before, but it's good when this is coming up as a topic and you're saying, how are we best using our resources? And Lana said this many times, but we say no to projects more often than we say yes to. So when we're talking about looking at these prospects, and we're talking about Department of Commerce, and we're talking about all these other people that are looking to our area, they're flat out when they say, we're going to be using this X amount of water for X amount of return, there's oftentimes that's in the conversation. We're not going to entertain people who are, or companies that aren't going to be
wastewater.
that are going to be using an inordinate amount of water for little output. So we turned those people that kind of industrial partner away. We've also, there's been ones that said, hey, we want to move in 5,000 people and the pay is going to be low and it's going to be hard jobs. And we've said that's not a fit for our community. And the good thing about it is being able to say no means that it's easier for us to say yes to the people and the companies that are good stewards
For the right
to our
thing.
resources. We've had people that didn't want to get on board with the water reuse. And we said, you know what, if you're not going to get on board with water reuse and contribute to the solution to the issues that we have, then you need to find a different community. We're not going to give you handouts like other communities are going to do in different regions and stuff like that. And we come up with it where we have companies that come up and say, hey, we were just down site selecting in Texas. They're giving away land for free. Why are you charging the hundreds of thousands of dollars an acre on some of your industrial sites? And it's because we are making sure that we are choosing
the right people.
good players for our community because we say no. We don't have to say yes because we can win still with saying no to 95% of the people that are the companies that are coming by. And that helps us be able to be picky and choosy about who makes it in. And this is kind of an issue back 5 or 6 years ago, even maybe more than that, with the city commission that said, hey, why do you keep on bringing us these projects that you're all excited about? And why don't we ever say no to this as a city commission? You're like, well, because we've already filtered out. The only ones we're going to bring forward
Are the projects
that we're confident in, that we know are going to be doing the best use of our water, that are going to be doing the best use for our land. And not just on the industrial side, but commercial and residential. It doesn't do us any good if we attract a restaurant that nobody wants, they build, and then they go away. So I think we're very intentional and take it to heart when we say that we tell people no more often than yes, because we want to make sure that they are a good fit and good stewards of our resources. So just putting that up there, that is like when we're talking about strategy, that is overarching strategy for economic development.
Good.
So anyway.
Well, Sam, are you asking for a report monthly on these topics, or?
No, it sounds like I stirred up a hornet's nest.
No, not really.
not really.
Not really. I don't, it's a good conversation. I think
That's why I
it's
wondered if you
conversation that
wanted
needs
some
to
type of
happen.
report on the water.
It should, I just pulled it out, because it is a main one.
Yeah.
You know, and we brought up sunflower, here they were gonna triple, and then now we hear they may close. We're talking about electric cars, but I hear there's reports that these batteries, the products to make those batteries is worse than any coal ever thought of being.
Right.
So, I mean, how do you balance all this stuff out?
Sure.
Yeah, Stuart brought up a good comment here about what we call this everyday small farmer versus I never heard to use commercial farmer, but we're gonna see more and more of this, it's almost like land managers, and then they help organize
Workforce to
farming,
work.
because
Yeah.
there's just, us baby boomers all came back, but there's just very few come back today.
Right.
And so you're gonna have more of a corporate overseeing of land management, but through new technology, they'll get a lot done in a short period of time. But the cost is tremendous. Yeah, we're already importing food. There's various products that, this one shouldn't even apply, but it does. But how many of your different things you consume really were they really grown here in the U.S.? There's a lot of them that comes overseas because so the corporate people that are handling that product can buy it cheaper overseas and they can't in the U.S. A lot of products.
Sure.
A lot of products. Now, the thing we really have out here in those western plains is what I refer to as value-added products because of the pork, the beef, and the dairy. You've added value. If we were just sitting there trying to sell hay and grains, we'd be out of business.
Yeah, we would. You're exactly right.
It'd just be the sand hills blowing away.
Yep.
But we're a fortunate area, and again, we've done very well, but just how do we still be mindful of our resources and use them right, you know?
Great conversation, and thank you for bringing
I
that up,
agree,
Sam.
yeah.
Yeah, great
Good
conversation. So, thank you very much. Any other new business that we need to discuss? Let's move on to old business. I do have a comment here, an update from Stuart on the meeting that I asked you to attend. And how do you feel that went? And
Pretty good. I was a little late to the first meeting.
oh, okay,
But we had a follow-up meeting with the company,
okay,
the one that kind of everybody feels most
Favorable
comfortable
to.
with.
Mhm.
Yeah, that is actually already doing some study for the city of Garden City. And we had a follow-up Zoom meeting with them, and they went through some more of what they do and what we might expect from
Okay.
them as a report. I think there's still I still have some unanswered questions, I guess, of
sure.
you know, what direction is this going to take us?
Sure.
You know, I don't know. I think there's just still a lot of things out there that I'm concerned about different entities going in
Different
their own
directions.
directions
Mhm.
and not utilizing the things that
We have in place.
we have available to us.
Yep.
So,
Makes a lot of sense.
you know, everybody kind of has their own thing going, and I
Right.
think we all need to get together and consolidate those ideas into, you know, a common goal, because if we don't, then all of them are going to be lacking in what they can accomplish individually. So,
Thank you for attending and taking my place. I do appreciate that. And I thought you brought a lot more to the table than I did because of your expertise in what you do and that kind of stuff. So thank you for doing that. Shannon, you'd like care to make any comment on that meeting? I know you were there.
I think Stuart had a pretty good summary of it. I believe where we left it is just to follow up with one company that the group felt the most comfortable with going forward. There's some questions on budgets and who's really on the hook for paying for studies like this. They're still kind of in that not resolved area. But I feel like if there is a study to be done in this area, and we're talking about civic center kind of facility here. This is probably the best group that submitted a proposal. And I think that was a consensus of the group on that, but there were some questions that still had to get resolved, and kind of the group, some of the leadership inside that group kind of really needed to resolve some issues about what we're trying to answer with this report and what are we actually trying to accomplish, which kind of Stuart talked about there. So.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. I think it's good that, excuse me, go ahead.
Shannon brought up a good point about we haven't really come down to who's paying for this study.
Yes, exactly.
And I don't feel comfortable in dragging this company on if we're not sure.
We don't have a
Well, I assume the money is there somewhere, but nobody wants to commit to it, I guess.
Correct.
And that's one thing that we can't, I mean, 3 companies submitted proposals. Obviously, the other 2 are out. I mean, that's just the chance you take in
Sure.
going after a project. But once you've kind of settled on someone, you've got to be able to make the commitment to pay for those services before
Mhm.
they're going to want to
Exactly.
keep going on it. So I think that's pretty important that we need to get resolved as to how's this going to be paid for.
Well, I think we have the right people in the community at the table to have those discussions and to talk about that. And thank you again for attending. I think that we have an awful lot of projects going on right now that are similar and have similarities, and that we have an opportunity to evaluate the expansion, or we'll have it that is going, that wants to happen. And I think we probably need to step back and let nature take its course and see how the projects that we have in the queue come about, and if they answer some of our issues that we have in the community, and maybe they will address that we don't need to have something like that. And, maybe in 5 years, we do need to have that discussion, but I'm not one that knows exactly. I mean, I've attended some of those meetings and believe that we do have some facilities that are not being used now that we should utilize, and some facilities that are being looked at that have an opportunity to serve a purpose, I guess. And we should make sure that we don't build something that's going to have a high maintenance and those types of things, and evaluate, like you said, before we make
Well,
that determination.
This is part of my thought process on setting up this presentation to
Okay.
this group to look at the status of the sports of the world, or star bonds, whatever
Okay.
you want to call them. Because I
Okay.
think it's going to maybe answer a few questions that are still kind of lingering out there that people are not sure about.
Sure.
And because it's underway, they're building on it right now.
Yep, exactly.
So it's going to happen, and I
Okay.
think we just need to look at what's being proposed, and okay, how does it affect other things that we're contemplating,
Perfect.
considering.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you for the report. Thanks for the comments. Appreciate it. Lana, you have a need for executive session view, and then I have a piece that I'd like to discuss in executive session as well, so we'll go with that.
If you don't mind, since we'll be cutting off the public portion, what is the purpose of the second executive session? Non-elected personnel?
That's correct. Non-elected personnel.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll need about 15 minutes for client confidentiality, and then whatever you say.
Yeah,
Tom.
probably about 10, 15 minutes for ours as well, so nothing major.
Okay. So just as a reminder, before we let everybody go, we do have our December meeting will be held on December 21st, and then the annual meeting, you'll start with a regular meeting for January prior to the annual meeting on January 26th. We'll get the schedule out to you, but just as a reminder, that's on a Thursday instead of a Wednesday.
Okay. Anybody have any issues with that December 21st? I know we discussed that prior, so thank you for bringing those dates up. Appreciate it. With that, I hear a motion to go into executive session. Do we need that motion? Yes, we do, don't we? So,
Make a motion to go into executive session?
second?
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All approve, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you.